Seval is currently serving as Senior Advisor in the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Research and Technology at USDOT while she awaits final Senate approval of her nomination to serve as Assistant Secretary of Transportation. Saval brings an impressive background in innovation and mobility. She led global partnerships for Google X's self-driving car program, now known as Waymo, and later served as CEO of Continental Intelligent Transportation Systems. She also founded Arima, an AI-driven perception company for autonomous vehicles. Beyond that, she's held key advisory and board roles at Microvision, Pioneer Electronics, and several mobility startups. She holds an MBA from Wharton, a bachelor's degree from Wellesley and MIT, and has 10 patents in vehicle technology software. During her confirmation hearing, Saval emphasized the importance of evidence-based research and innovation in shaping transportation policy and infrastructure, ideas that resonate strongly with TRB's mission. Saval, welcome to TRB, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much, Leslie, and thank you to the TRB Forum. I'm humbled to be in front of you, and sorry, I have to wear the hat because I have that 1% gene where green eyes get affected by harsh lights, so I apologize for that.
Well, pardon my bluntness, but you rock the hat. You look fantastic, so wonderful.
All right.
So we just heard from the Deputy Secretary set forth an ambition, and I'm truly looking forward to the innovation goals set forth. So what in that vision drew you to join the department?
You know, it's funny. I'm not probably going to not be able to tell you anything new in this room, but maybe perhaps when we're done I can slightly bend the way you think about things. My vision synced very strongly with our President's vision and Secretary Sean Duffy's passion, as well as Deputy Secretary and our Chief of Staff, Pete Meacham, to move the needle on lives lost. I mean, in any other industry, a loss of 40,000 lives on an annual basis after spending billions of dollars is an epidemic, and it should be solved for. So I think that and many of the people on my team, and we've been able to fortunately put together very high performance teams, feel the same way. And I can even be so humble as to say that the administrators that have been selected for this next ambitious move in the Department of Transportation's life cycle have also felt the same way. And that kind of draws us together, and you'll see and feel that resonance when you, the other day when we had the administrators, good-looking gentlemen, I think, right, up on stage. I mean, without rehearsing anything, we sort of speak the same language, and we're attesting to the same strength in what we have to offer, which is really to try and solve or at least make an impact in the numbers. Furthermore, I think we all shared a common interest in wanting to bring together some of the research money and the work that we've been doing and moving from this siloed, fragmented pilots and waivers and exemptions to a more framework, a larger, let's call it a national framework for commercial deployment. When I started at Google in 2010-11, we thought this technology would be out in 5 years. And we thought it would be commercially deployed probably within the decade. Well, we were orders of magnitude off in that assumption. But we have no reason now for those orders of magnitude to continue because we have the technology. We birthed the technology to develop autonomous vehicle capability in this country, and much of it was done early on actually through our DARPA grants. And you heard Steve talking about our ARPA-I activities, but they were from students and professors and passionate people in the Department of or in the transportation sector that really wanted to see the next generation of mobility transfer into machines driving vehicles, and basically we have the freedom to choose, right? Whether we want to have machines drive or whether we want to drive ourselves on a bright and sunny day. But there's no reason to think about having to drive in traffic anymore. So we also, I think, finally on this question, realize that there's a dormant demand of people who could, aside from thinking of this as a zero-sum game, could actually increase the size of the driving pie because they're able to now afford it. It's convenient, and you can actually get things done by moving around at lower costs. So I think if you think about the hidden dormant drive demand that we haven't even factored into the equation, with the aging of the population, degenerative sicknesses that we all live through, and the youth that needs to sort of think about now, how do we actually start driving safely when we attend social events, it behooves us to really step up and try and collectively work on this problem.
So many transportation researchers, innovators, and engineers tend to deal with one mode of transportation, with that mode's set of issues and processes. So they may not understand the role of your part of the USDOT Secretary's Office, the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Research and Technology, as we all call OSTR. What do you see as your mission, and how does it fit with the research and innovation activities of the operation, of the operating administrations?
It's a great question, Leslie. We have our mode administrators, and they excel in their areas of expertise. The Office of the Secretary of Research and Technology is about enabling the best, most credentialed research and technology from an engineering perspective to get out there, to surface in the form of hard critical evidence that we usually develop from quite a lot of the funding that Steve talked about that we do with the UTCs, with SMART grants, with ARPA-I students, and with various other joint programs, ITS. We have our Volpe teams working, and so this effort really does enable the ability to for the modes to sort of take this information and not only propel their own areas, but also enable us to start synergizing on data standardization, right? And performance versus prescriptive regulatory environments. And if you bring these together, there's quite a lot of synergies. We don't need to be reinventing the wheel every time we move forward. But progressively, we do need to lay some foundational groundwork on enabling the next generation of data standardization, which will fuel our ability to move efficiently, effectively, safely, and affordably in this country. R&D must inform policy, and R&D must sort of step up with the ability to inform the regulator sides, and as Deputy Secretary talked about a little earlier, about the ambitious efforts that NHTSA is putting together on the rulemaking side. So excited about the progress we're going to see this year in sort of bringing that national framework together.
Great. I know from your private sector background that you have long been engaged in work on autonomous vehicles. How is OSTR playing into the part of the innovation agenda?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that when I first started visiting some of the OEMs and tier ones globally, and I would walk into these large executive rooms, and people would sort of slightly scratch their head and say, where's Saval Oz? And I would have to inform them that I'm a woman. That doesn't really, it's not. They weren't used to, I guess, at the time, seeing a lot of women in that field. But I think OSTR is innovation, right? And the innovation agenda, the technology innovation for research and development in this administration is really, really putting quite a lot of oomph, and we're given a lot of latitude to enable certain things to move from safety research to support rulemaking, as I talked about, but also moving from pilots and early deployment into commercialization. So what do you need? Steve talked a little bit about the AV bus that's out there, you'll see. Well, that's a labor of love, right? And it was the decision, a conscientious decision for the USDOT to make its first vestige of autonomy into a transit vehicle, a bus, right? Because we want to showcase that the the automation capability that we have and that we're going to be building is not just about individual users. It's also about how we move large amounts of goods, people, and services across this country. So I'm really excited to be participating and to be lucky enough to be leading some of that effort, and excited to be able to talk about tomorrow at our industry strategy some of the work that we want to do with partnering with TRB, partnering with the public-private sectors. A lot of infrastructure discussions now are going into place, and we need to stand that up collectively and as communities. So that's kind of what OSTR is about to me.
Can you expand a little bit on the topic of automation corridors? How do you see that corridor concept evolving into the agenda for innovation?
Right. So we've been hearing that industry is moving into deployment in cities. And as they move into deployment in cities, it's kind of like throwing a rock or a pebble into a large body of water. You'll see that concentric ripple effect, right? Because we build, routers and planners, and all of a sudden people start feeling comfortable. But there's a very strong sort of psychology of how computer-driven vehicles drive differently than human drivers. And in that bus, for example, we're getting learnings on the way in which people need to be probably informed to drive slightly differently when they're driving in a designated AV lane. I didn't say dedicated, I meant designated. So during this transition period for the next 5 to 10 years, we're most likely going to be sharing the roads. So it behooves us to do that work, seed that effort right now, so we graduate into the acceptance of this capability. Most of our corridors account for large percentages, over 60–70 percentages of our commerce and movement in this country. Well, I would argue that not only is transportation essential, but transportation is the economy of this country. And if you think about how we are going to plug into those cities that we grow, they will most likely be then building out into the arteries. And those arteries represent our corridors. And those corridors are, since the Eisenhower era, fundamentally the growth engine of this country. And it will most likely continue to be significantly the growth corridors of our country. So the states, I've been very, very pleased, excited, and really congratulate the state DOT CEOs who have been very progressively leading their own states and driving the coalition apparatus. Now what we're looking to do is, okay, let's identify, build out some of those corridor apparatuses into clusters so we can start working across regions and plug into similar data banks, plug into where the gaps might be, for example, on Route I-10 when you're going from West Coast to East Coast, and extend some of the north vertical corridors, 35, 65, that have already been continuing to do work on. We need to figure out foundationally what are the next steps and the processes to build these automation corridors out. And I think that's a crucial opportunity for the federal government to step in and start partnering and working even more closely with creative ways of financing. Think about, as you start building out these corridors, you're going to develop probably urban cities that never existed, or maybe even reinvigorate urban cities. Remember, it's not a zero-sum game. It's actually the pie is getting bigger. And if we do it right, we're going to have much more efficient throughputs. We're going to solve congestion. We're going to have interactive signals that actually communicate and tell you when to go. And we're going to have a much more efficient way of moving goods, peoples, and services. And going back to the Alice principle that she talked about, it's really critical that we think about how we start bringing up the 1% of the population that can't do it on its own. So it's exciting to be a part of that, and I'm really enthusiastic about being able to serve.
We can hear your enthusiasm, and I definitely love tying in Alice, for a very good reason to get this technology moving quickly. I knew our time was going to fly by. We've got 2 questions left.
Okay.
And so before the last question, I just wanted to ask you to comment What is the role of this community, TRB, and its many volunteers and their pieces of America's transportation system in engaging and in achieving the vision that you want to see come to fruition?
Well, I'll be bold, Leslie, since you asked the question, and say that TRB is the largest tent with the longest engineering pole. So in any other part of the universe, when you're thinking about problems to solve, it would be right here. And we should start thinking in terms of, we are already, but we should amplify that in terms of thinking about all associations, all modes which you cover, extending into maritime, extending into new areas which maybe ought to be in part of this collaboration. This community is on the cusp of steering a huge tsunami of change. And we have to be thoughtful about every single aspect of that change, which includes behavioral science, it includes transportation logistics, AI, human learning, next generation of reasoning engines, identifying patterns of behavior, not just in human behavior and drive behavior, but patterns of what happens when a storm occurs, what's the way in which we clear up corridors, we redirect. So we're moving from an emergency response and reactive transportation operating center concept to a predictive, preventative, and maintenance driven. And that's not easy. That's going to take a village. It's going to take a community, and TRB plays an exceptionally important role in that. And I can't imagine and express sitting up here how critical you all, each and every one of you, are going to play in the next few years of this administration's livelihood. And I really, right now, would like to express my gratitude and appreciation of all the hard work you have done, you're continuing to do, and you will do in collaboration with us. So thank you.
So let's wrap up our conversation with this final question. And that is, what is your personal vision for the future of American transportation? What do you see in your crystal ball looking into the future?
Well, for me, life is about frictionless, frictionless progress. So if I can get up in the morning and I opt into this scenario, I'll have a vehicle waiting for me, and it will take me where it knows I need to go. There might be a little chip by then in my wrist or somewhere if I've agreed to do that, and I won't have to think about it. And if it's safe enough, affordable enough, and we've been conscientious about how we build out the apparatus for our transportation, again, we probably won't have to pay a lot for it or think about it. And transportation should be like oxygen. It should be, frictionless, and it should be something we don't think about. So my idea of moving in the future is not having to think about moving in the future.
Well, I like that future as well. So, Saval, thank you so much. And I'm speaking on behalf of TRB. We look forward to working with you in the months and the years ahead. I'm thrilled to have shared this chair's plenary session with you. And I ask the audience to join me in a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Here, I'm turned on here. Thank you. So I want to take this opportunity as we conclude the session to express my appreciation for the dedicated staff of TRB. It's been an absolute honor. And I just wanted just to personally express my sincere thanks. This past year has brought significant change and real challenges, yet you met them with the determination, adaptability, and a clear commitment to excellence. The TRB staff embraced transformation, stayed focused on our mission, and continued to serve the transportation community at the highest level. I was deeply impressed by all of TRB staff, and I was impressed by the ability of how you navigated uncertainty while continuing to move this organization. I do want to take the time also to do a special thank you to Executive Director Victoria Sheehan, who has done an incredible job positioning TRB for a strong and vibrant future. Her leadership, integrity, and collaborative spirit have been instrumental to the progress we are seeing today. I just want to let you know that your work, as well as the work of the entire TRB team, has not gone unnoticed, and I am truly grateful. Thank you so much, and if you just join me in a round of applause for all their hard work this year. So among my final duties as chair, I am pleased to pass the gavel to my successor, Joel Junt. I am confident that he is more than ready and willing and prepared to take on the responsibilities of the 26th chair of the TRB Executive Committee, and I've seen firsthand that you will all be in very good hands. So with that, Joel, I am pleased to present you with the gavel. Do I have? Oh. I have to find it first. There you go. Okay. I think it's you. Congratulations.
I get the mic just for a minute. Thank you for your confidence, but as we just heard from Diane earlier on, leadership is not about me. It's really, truly about the executive committee and the great staff that you just heard. I've been able to witness and experience this for a number of years now with Victoria and the staff that it is. We had great staff, so we're gonna work well together, and I appreciate all of you, and again, your commitment to research. And again, I've stated numerous times, especially with R&I, we don't do research just to do research. We do research so that we can end up with something that we can implement to make better lives through better transportation when it's all done. With that, on behalf of the TRB Executive Committee, with our great appreciation with your leadership and giving me a great example of to move forward on, we want to present you to this plaque, and I do want to read the words on here. It says, Leslie S. Richards for distinguished service as chair of the Executive Committee, Transportation Research Board, the National Academies of Science and Engineering and Medicine. So thank you again for all your hard work this last year.
Take the gavel. Make sure you take the gavel. It is yours. So thank you so much, Joel. Thank you to TRB. Thanks to the Executive Committee. Thanks to all the volunteers and supporters in the audience here. This completes our Chair's Plenary Session program. And on behalf of all of TRB, thanks so much for joining us. The remaining afternoon sessions and committee meetings will begin at 3:30, so a rare TRB event. We actually will give you 28 minutes to get to your next session. Thank you so much.